If you're learning how to paint, how to sketch, how to draw, or even if you already know how to do all of these things, you should have one of these. So these are two of my personal favorite brands of sketchbooks. This is an Arches sketchbook. It's a little bit longer scale. And then this is a Winsor and Newton sketchbook, a little shorter scale. And the thing about these is it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off feeling like you need to have a full-blown masterpiece by the end of your painting session. The thing is you really need to have somewhere where you can practice, where you can make mistakes, where you can be a little more experimental, because that's how you're going to push yourself and grow as an artist. And having a little sketchbook like this gives you a place where you can do that and there's no consequences. Because if you're going to do a painting on a full-size sheet or a half sheet, I mean, that's a lot of paper to cover for one thing, so you better make sure that you're perfectly happy with your composition. And if the painting doesn't work out, you're going to have to get rid of this entire sheet of paper or half sheet of paper or whatever size piece of paper you're working with. So having a sketchbook is the perfect way to practice, to play, to mess up, without having to worry about wasting an entire sheet of paper. And I have tons of these little sketchbooks full of little scenes and sketches and all kinds of stuff. So I figured I'd take you on over to the studio and we can check a few of these out and see what's in there.
All right, let's open this one up and see what we got. These are kind of in no particular order as far as the date, and I'm not even sure how many of these we'll flip through today. We'll start with one, see how far we get. I'm actually really curious to see what's in here. By the way, these little Winsor and Newton sketchbooks are amazing. I've only ever seen them online, but you can probably find them at Blick's. I've never seen them at Michael's. But they're super compact, they're the perfect size, 5x7. The paper responds really well to water and to paint, so I would highly recommend just picking one of these up just for fun. Like I was saying, it's a great way to practice, a great way to be more playful and experimental with your art. So let's see what we got. Wow, that's really cool, actually. So we've got a little dusk scene. I actually know where this was. This was out at Lake Pleasant, west of Phoenix. There were these dead trees reflecting in the water. I didn't paint this on location. Most of my paintings are done in the studio, but you can see that there's actually a pen sketch that I did underneath this. This is how I used to do it. I used to start out with a pen sketch and then paint over top of it. That's called line and wash or ink wash technique. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, and the cool thing about these sketchbooks is you can paint on both sides. So that's a sketch that never actually got quite turned into a painting. Yeah, I did line and wash sketches like this for just the longest time, and it really helped me understand how to draw. Because when I first had the idea to learn how to paint, I realized that I didn't even know how to draw, so I had to learn that first, and then eventually start adding paint on top of that. That's actually a really cool scene. A little harbor with a building in the background. I really like this one. Very atmospheric. There's a lot more urban style scenes that I used to paint. I don't do quite as many of those anymore, but this is kind of making me want to get back into it. See, I'm kind of experimenting with gouache here, figuring out what the right amount is. Yeah, I wish I would have made these shadows a little more fuzzy, but That's why this is just a sketchbook. I do like that highlight that I got on the side of this structure though. It makes it look metallic and shiny. Yeah, I'm starting to play around with getting different effects in the sky and things like that. Little flower. I like this one. I think that turned out pretty nice. I like that red roof. Another sketch that I kind of gave up on. Yeah, and I actually got to the point where I was sketching just with pen. I wasn't even doing a pencil sketch ahead of time. Kind of playing around with some clouds and some reflections. It doesn't look like I ever finished this one. The colors are interesting though. Oh, look at that little parrot. Yeah, I used to sketch and paint parrots a lot, actually. That became one of my specialties. I haven't done it in a few years, but there was a point in time when that was most of what I was painting were parrots. I tried to get into dogs, but I had a hard time getting the shape of dogs down. I just haven't practiced it enough. I have this aversion of painting living creatures, including humans, because I just find them very difficult to to draw, honestly. But for whatever reason, parrots and birds, I was able to get a handle on more easily. Maybe I'll start painting parrots again. That might be a nice, fun change to my usual scenes, which are more like this. I'm actually really happy with this one. This one looks really freaking cool. It's so atmospheric. A cousin of mine sent me this picture and I made a painting out of it. Yeah, I love the warm glow on the sidewalk and the little subtle shadows everywhere. I like how I painted this tree with really simple big brush strokes. And then that glowing sun in the background. Yeah, this is actually a fantastic scene. And there's something about the sketch that just makes it so fun and whimsical. I don't know how to explain it. It just feels loose and free. And that's something that I try to preserve in my bigger scale paintings as well. Yes, a utility pole. I used to love drawing these things. There's just so many little shapes and lines moving everywhere. All the wires and the way they all connect to each other and where they connect and the transformers. This scene is interesting because you've got a utility pole which is made from a pine trunk and then you've got a pine tree behind it. So this was made into that. Very interesting scene. And yes, doing stuff like this with pen is super nice because you can just draw the wires in. You don't have to worry about trying to paint them, which can be super difficult. I love this scene. This is one of my favorite paintings I've ever done, and it's a teeny tiny little painting. It's just so atmospheric, and it was a very emotionally charged point in my life. I took this picture at Snoqualmie Pass just before you drop down into the Puget Sound area, Seattle-Tacoma area in Washington State. And there was this snowstorm happening at the top of the mountain. This was in like May, I think. I did this big, huge road trip all around the western United States. and eventually made my way up to the Pacific Northwest. And at this point in my life, I had just recently lost my faith, left my church, and was going through a divorce all at the same time. So this was a much needed pilgrimage, you could say, and this was one of the stops. There's just a gas station parking lot, but I just turned around and I saw just this amazing scene unfolding in this gas station parking lot. So you've got this crazy juxtaposition of this amazing nature right here, and then this gritty, dingy, dirty parking lot stuff happening right here. But yeah, it's just such a fascinating and look, I even got the snow effect by splattering gouache. Man, what a time. Yeah, these sketchbooks are kind of like visual diaries, because looking at these pictures is bringing back memories that I forgot that I had. Because you put so much emotion and feeling into your painting and your drawing, and so when you look back at it again, it unlocks that. And to be honest, I have not kept a sketchbook in a long time, and this is kind of making me want to do it again, because like the thing is, you could turn, if you particularly like how some of these scenes turn out in your sketchbook, you could make it a full-blown painting. And this is actually a fantastic way to practice for a larger scene. And I've actually never done that myself, so I should do that. I really should. Here's another nice little street scene. Got some really interesting shadows. This is outside of my friend Brody's house. He lives in Cedar City, Utah. I go up there pretty often, and we make music, and we have a little band, and we're always writing songs and sharing music and all that kind of stuff. I love the color of this tree right here, that plum color. I'm not sure what kind of tree that is, but the trees that have purple leaves. I'm sure you've seen them. Another atmospheric scene. I can tell that in this book I was getting to the place where I was really practicing and wanting to portray a sense of mood and atmosphere in my work. And you can start to see the first glimpses of my artistic voice starting to take shape. These are starting to look like my paintings. My paintings have a very distinctive look, but it took a long time and a lot of doing this to get to that point, to actually develop my artistic voice. So that's another benefit of sketchbooks, is it gives you the breathing room and the space to actually find your artistic uniqueness. Like, how would you paint a scene like this? Not copying how I would do it or how anybody else would do it, but how would you do it? How would it look coming out of your hands? And the only way to figure that out is to paint over and over and over and over again. And that's a lot easier. And that's a lot easier to do in a little tiny sketchbook, right? Especially when you can paint on both sides of the page. Oh, wow, that's actually a really cool sketch. Okay, yeah, I was trying to remember what this is. I remember what this is. This is... I know exactly where this is. That's crazy. I had to look at it for a second, but I figured it out. This is Richard's Garden Center in North Phoenix. Yeah, I remember this. I never got around to painting this one, but sometimes it's fun to just leave the sketch as it is. They had this pole in the middle of the yard with these cloth things tied to it, and I really like the shapes that they were making. Yeah, you got all these structures and all kinds of stuff around there. So this sketchbook is later in my artistic journey. It's been several years ago since then, but it's definitely I can tell that I had advanced pretty significantly. One of these days I'll show you an older sketchbook and you can see my progress, but yeah, back then I was also trying to get into painting figures. I mean, this one's not too bad. Face is a little wonky, but it's another thing I very much avoid is painting people, because it's just, like I was saying before, I find it very complicated. And I'm just not honestly that interested in painting humans for whatever reason. I like landscapes. That's my jam. Oh yes. The window. I see through my window. So this was my old apartment, and that was the view out of one of my windows, was the window on the other side. And I was just fascinated by the color of the shades as seen through the glass. It's got this very distinct greenish color. And then the way that the shadows are cast onto the blinds, and then the shadows of the blinds themselves, and the little strings. There's just so much complexity in just a simple window. And you would never know that unless you sat there for half an hour trying to sketch it and figure out what the heck is going on. Oh man. And that's, oof. That one makes me emotional. Yeah, this is Ralphie. He's a parrot that I fostered for a few months during probably the most difficult time of my life. I fostered him, and he helped me stay on this earth, I guess we'll say. If it wasn't for him, I very well might not be here making this video right now. He loved his little carrots, so I painted a picture of him with a half-eaten carrot. And I sadly had to surrender him a few months after I adopted him, because I was going to flight school at the time, which is the Through Your Wings. I found my own. I ended up having to drop out of flight school very early, which is a whole other story, but that little bird was there exactly when I needed him to be, and he quite literally saved my life. So I always get a little emotional when I talk about Ralphie. Oh, look at that. That's cool. That's actually really cool. I love how that turned out. It's a little hurricane lantern. And I just love all the different highlights that really give you a sense of what this is made out of. You know, you can tell that it's made out of metal and that this is glass, and I even was able to capture the glow of the glass and the reflection of the light within the glass on the metal here and here. Wow, that's actually really cool. It's so fun to go through this. I completely forgot about all of these. Let me know in the comments which one of these are your favorite, by the way. Cone flowers. I love cone flowers. I used to do a lot more botanical pieces than I've been doing lately, but I have been meaning to start doing that again, but I want to make them much, much bigger scale. I'm so fascinated with plants and flowers and trees and all kinds of things like that, and drawing them and painting them just is a way to study this amazing creation, this amazing expression of life that most of the time we just walk right past and we barely notice it. But if you have to sit here and figure out, okay, where do the petals go into this part, and then what are these little things that are sticking out, and you get to understand how this thing works in a way that you never could otherwise. I really like this one. this is probably one that I'm going to make a full-size painting. That is for sure, because I just love the way that these flowers look. They have so much character. I love the way that the petals kind of flop down. They're just kind of hanging there. And then the cone part is sticking out. I'm not familiar with the botanical terms for what is it, stamens and styles and whatever. I know the words, but I just don't know what they're referring to. So, oh, look at that. That's cool. Yeah, I used to paint so many scenes like this. So my day job is, I work for a surveying and mapping company. I'm a CAD technician, but sometimes I go out into the field and do things in the field. And these were some geotechnical guys with a drill rig up on a mountaintop. They were doing some tests of the ground because we were going to be building a radio tower out here. And I was just sitting in the truck and I saw them working and snapped a few pictures, and yeah, like I got the proportions of the figures exactly right. Like I'm actually kind of impressed, honestly. It's been a long time since I've painted scenes like this, but again, this is kind of making me want to get back into that. Here's a little scene from Jerome, Arizona, a little Flatiron building. I like the way that you got this kind of 2-point perspective going on here and then here. I like how the street is kind of at it's at 2 different levels. Like this street is higher up than this one. I think that's a really cool effect. Oh, and then there's, oh yeah, this is, so I follow a lot of animal content creators on Instagram, and this is Fifi, the cutest Goffin. She was a Goffin's cockatoo that had lost all of her feathers. She has most of them back now, but she's still bald, and she's got like the tufts of feathers. It looks like she's wearing a little fur coat. So yeah, that's one sketchbook down. So I have many more that I could show you, but I think I will leave it here for today. If you want to see more sketchbook flip-throughs like this, please let me know in the comments. Please do subscribe to the channel for all things watercolor. I do full-length painting demos, I do shorter demos, I do sketchbook flip-throughs, I do videos of excursions where I go out and find things to paint, and all the adventures and misadventures that happen along the way. So if that's interesting to you, please subscribe. Also, don't forget to check out my website, jacobbentzstudio.com, where you can see and purchase all of my paintings and prints, as well as sign up for my newsletter. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little sketchbook tour. I hope this has inspired you to start painting in your own sketchbook. And I will see you in the next video.